Viewers, look at the pictures. Look at them. This is Los Angeles, California, America, viewers. Los Angeles is, of course, the home of Hollywood. But this is not a movie. This is not real life. This is real life. These are not actors. These are citizens clashing with other citizens. Only those work for the state. We here in India can react in two very different ways. First, we can identify with the scenes and lament the universalization of the radical left playbook that uses violence to undermine sovereignty. We've seen these scenes when pockets in India in 2020 erupted over the NRC legislation. But that's a totally different debate, viewers, for another time. For now, with a sense of vindication and not, viewers, mean-spirited triumphalism. Let's watch as the so-called beacon of democracy finds itself in the throes of chaos. Viewers, the United States, quick to preach sermons on dissent, liberty, and tolerance to the rest of the world, is watching its own streets burn after a heavy-handed Trump administration crackdown on protesters opposing ICE-led deportations in Los Angeles. The ICE is another name for the Immigration Control Agency, viewers, in America. Tear gas, batons, armed agents. Why? Because Trump, and I'll show you his quote, viewers, Trump wanted to protect the rule of law. Donald Trump said, if I didn't send in the troops to Los Angeles, the last 3 nights, that once beautiful and great city would be burning to the ground right now, unquote. Fat lot. It has done, Donald Trump, sending in those troops. Fat lot. Done nothing. Those protests are spiraling out of control. Curfew is now being imposed. But LA is still burning. It will burn for days, some predict. The scenes are indistinguishable from the very images American lawmakers condemned in Hong Kong, Venezuela, and yes, India. When India passed the Citizenship Amendment Act or revoked Article 370 to fully integrate Jammu and Kashmir, our own land, Washington's sanctimonious brigade kicked into overdrive. And you can see now, I'm going to show you more graphics, viewers. These are facts. These are hard facts. You can't escape them. You can see here on the screen, congressional hearings were held. Sanctimonious tweets flew. Quote, respect human rights, unquote. They cried. Protect free speech. They warned. Be tolerant of dissent. They thundered. Whether it was the abrogation of Article 370, the State Department expressed concern about detentions, urging respect for individual rights and dialogue with affected groups. Yes, that's what they said. We were under a lot of pressure, viewers, because we were only doing the right thing. We were ridding India of illegals who were conspiring with non-state actors to terrorize our own people. Can't a sovereign, independent country do that? Well, America didn't think so. Now look what's happening, viewers. When they want to do the same, look what's happening. CAA, if you remember, 2019, some US lawmakers referenced the CAA during human rights roundtables, warning against policies that might marginalize minorities, they said. They didn't even understand the CAA and they forgot that they have laws just like that, passed by their own Congress or Senate, the equivalent of Parliament. The farm protests, viewers, congressional letters to Secretary of State raised concerns over Indian government action against protesters. State Department's annual human rights report raised alarms over media pressure, harassment of minorities and restrictions on dissent across India, as if America, viewers, was in any position to preach. I'm not indulging in whataboutery. Viewers, that was fake news. And fake news travels fast because America plays games. But now in their own backyard, protesters are being crushed under the boot of state power. What happened to those lofty ideals? Are human rights geographically elastic? Do they dissolve at US borders? Let's be clear. India's reforms were lawful, debated in parliament, upheld by its courts, and backed by a sovereign electorate. In contrast, America's self-inflicted immigration mess and racial fault lines have now sparked a descent into anarchy. I mean, California, viewers, could today very easily be, to use Trump's words, replete with irony on him, Mexico's 37th state. Trump calls the dissenters radical left insurgents. Those are his words, not mine. How is that different from branding Kashmiri separatists as extremists or labeling CA rioters as violent agitators, people who didn't recognize the primacy of our own constitution? It's time the US put its own democratic house in order before sermonizing others. Back off, Uncle Sam. You can't lecture India on democracy while your own cities resemble conflict zones. The hypocrisy is stunning. The double standards unforgivable. The mask is off and the world is watching. And I want to open this up, viewers, tonight from an Indian perspective. And we're going to ask certain direct questions of the Americans. And I'm going to first begin with author Spencer Critchley. We've, of course, spoken earlier, Mr. Critchley, under different circumstances. You're a journalist from California. So you know the innards of this problem. You also, of course, have lived in a very liberal state. But I don't see this as very liberal. Nonetheless, I'm going to get off my soapbox and I'll leave it to you to respond. Can America tonight really look itself in the mirror and say it's a functional democracy and that it can actually tell others where to get off on that subject?
Let's draw a clear distinction between America and Donald Trump. The whole problem here is that Donald Trump is attacking American democracy. And with respect, you're not doing Prime Minister Modi any favors by justifying his behavior by using Donald Trump as an example. Donald Trump is an authoritarian who exploits ethnic nationalist fear and resentment in order to seize power. And I don't think you want to make that comparison with Prime Minister Modi. That's a pretty uncomfortable comparison to make.
You're the only one making that comparison, Mr. Critchley. Let's not be too clever by half. You're the only one making that comparison. I didn't. I even said I'm not indulging in waterboutery.
Yeah, you said that after indulging all of this.
Yes, so please take my words. No, don't misquote me.
I invite you to play back.
No, hang on,
I'm
just
sorry, please don't. I'm sorry.
1 second, Mr. Critchley.
I'm willing to have a discussion.
You made an accusation.
I'm not
just
willing
putting
to be
my point
spoken
across and I'll
over.
let you continue.
If you want to try to speak over me, I can talk longer than you can. I guarantee it.
If you're here just to...
I invite you.
Hang on. If
I
you're just
invite you
here
to watch the tape that you just broadcast.
Just a minute,
no,
sir.
I'm sorry. I will not be spoken over. I will have a discussion.
No, I'm sorry. You can't make an accusation and run roughshod over somebody who's protesting.
You can respond to what you call my accusation with facts and evidence, not by talking over me. I invite you to roll back the intro that you just gave us.
Yes.
The problem is not American values. The problem is Donald Trump's attack on those American values.
I disagree with you. And I'll tell you why, if you allow me. If you allow me, that is.
I will allow you now that I'm finished talking. Please go ahead.
Okay. Now, this is what I've written a few days back. The sword arm of the hard left has drawn an arc of incendiary violence across Los Angeles, California.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, who are these people then who've hit the streets, who can't contain themselves, who are provoking the state of America? Who are these people who are burning people's cars?
Do you want an answer to that?
Yeah, tell me.
That's a minority of criminals and self-styled anarchists who love to show up at events like this, especially if you provoke them. If you actually look beyond the inflammatory images carefully cherry-picked to show it, making it look as if Los Angeles is burning, as you said, which is not true, you will see that by far the majority of the protesters have been nonviolent. The ones who are committing violence are sabotaging the cause they claim to stand for. And as the mayor of Los Angeles, all the local authorities up to the governor of California have said repeatedly, anybody who breaks the law, especially if they commit violence, including especially violence against law enforcement officers, are going to be prosecuted, and they are being prosecuted. Hundreds have been arrested already, but those hundreds are a small number of the many, many thousands who have come out to protest peacefully, to stand up for America's values, which are the values of democracy, not the values of authoritarianism, which exploits ethnic nationalist hatred.
Mr. Critchley is being very selective, viewers. He describes this as a very small minority. It's exactly that very small minority that came out onto the streets of India, viewers, not once, not twice, but 3 times in quick succession over 3 different issues, and did exactly what these anarchists are doing. And let me tell you, viewers, we saw anarchy in America a few years ago when Trump lost an election. At that time, another bunch of misconceived individuals overran the Senate. And we were told the entire MAGA movement was actually hooligans. The entire MAGA movement. So they painted the entire movement in one color. I'm not a supporter of the MAGA movement. I don't support any of the... Excuse me, let me finish, sir. I haven't finished. I haven't asked you a question. I'm making a statement. We're not getting into a...
You're making an untrue statement.
Oh, well, that was what was said. That they're all insurrectionists. They're all off their heads. Well, see, now, viewers, this is what I'm saying. When you talk in rhetorical terms, this is where the problem is. You can generalize pretty much anything. And that's what I was trying to bring out here. But anyway, I'm not going to dominate this. We've heard Mr. Critchley. He's saying that, look, you can't, at any level, melt the boundaries between the remit of Trump's office and the American people and the American state in general. That's what he's saying. Let's not blur the boundaries, he's saying. Does that hold true? Let me open this up.
Between Trump, the person, and the American state.
Okay.
And Trump helped to organize the January 6th attacks on the Capitol. He clearly cares nothing.
Well, we don't know who's
order.
organizing this sort of, I'm sorry to say, leftist intifada. But anyhow, let me just bring it.
Sake.
Let me just bring it.
I'm sorry.
Look,
let's
allow me the use of colorful adjectives like I've allowed you. That's what I was saying. Two rhetoricians.
To stick to facts.
I'm sticking to facts. You yourself said that these people are a small minority of people who don't care about American law. I don't know what else to call them. Anyhow, so I don't know. You want me to call them insurrectionists? We'll call them insurrectionists. I won't call them people.
I did not. They are not insurrectionists.
Okay, they're not insurrectionists. Then what are they? They're criminals. Loosely used terms, viewers. And he'll say with long history sheets, if that is the case, then why aren't they outside of America? Why aren't they being thrown out of the country if they are history sheeters and they're also illegals? I would think that would be...
The people who are being arrested are honest, hard-working people.
Right. That's what you claim. That's what you claim. Your own president claims...
No, this is...
No, hang on. Your own president claims they are... No, hang on. They have long history sheets and they need to be kicked out.
If people were to actually look up the facts, they would see that the Trump administration has a really unsuccessful record of arresting criminals who are here illegally. The great majority of the people they're arresting and deporting have no criminal record.
In any case, viewers, when you elect a felon, what more can be said about the American people?
Well, I agree with you there.
There you go.
I agree with you there.
I mean, let's, as I said, come on. If you're going to elect a felon, viewers, that says very little, in my mind, about the way the Americans take their own democracy. Let's go out to Dr. Ranganathan. Dr. Ranganathan, we've had it with America, giving the whole world a lecture. And I don't want to make that distinction between Trump that is so artfully being made here in the American state. Just flip the coin. Go 4 years back or 3 years back, and Biden was saying pretty much the same thing. And under him, too, there was a lot of violence. Let's be honest.
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. I hope you'll give me a fraction of the time that you've given to the previous panelists. I think you gave him 7.5 minutes, which according to me, going by his rants, was 7.5 minutes too many. 3 points I'd like to make here. Number one, America has been traditionally, and more so now, is living in a glass house. The only difference is now the world is pointing that out to the Americans because of social media, because of much more independence of views to and fro going across continents. This wasn't the case 30, 40, 50 years ago. Now, the fact of the matter is that the previous panelist very nicely and conveniently dissociated the president, almost saying, not my president, dissociating the problems in America right now with the problems that America have originated in America, offloading it to Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is it's not the case. Demography is destiny. 10% of California's current population is made up of illegal immigrants. A third of California's current population is migrants. The fact of the matter is that California is being run over by illegal immigrants, and if any president wants to take a step to either ebb that or to correct that situation, he is immediately branded as a bigot and a racist or a fascist or whatnot. The fact is that President Bill Clinton, who was a Democrat, acted more decisively against illegal immigration than Trump. This is a fact that is borne out by concrete evidence, and America still continues to preach. There were American senators who were preaching us during the CAA protests, which, by the way, our Supreme Court branded as illegal because they stopped a main arterial road, inconveniencing millions of commuters for 6 months. That is not democracy. The right to protest is not right to prevent. And the fact of the matter is that American presidents have come over to India and made us listen quietly about human rights situation. I remember President Obama coming over in 2015, I think it was, and he was preaching to us, waxing eloquent about how minorities' rights have to be respected in India. When in 2012, just 1 year of Obama presidency, there were 207,000 violent hate crime attacks on blacks alone. This is that same America that says Osama bin Laden was a freedom fighter when it was fighting on America's side against the Russians in Afghanistan. Then he was fighting for freedom, but then suddenly he becomes a terrorist. So let's not go by what America and Americans think. We know that their credibility is only thing lower than their credibility is their intelligence. The fact is, for the first time, India is standing up to what is right for us. And this was absolutely evident during the start and after, in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine war, when the West, including America, was demanding and forcing us to stop buying Russian oil. And we said nothing of the sort. We will do what is in our interest. Because remember, even 9 weeks beyond the Russia-Ukraine war starting, America itself was buying the oil. India right now is processing oil that is being bought by Europe. So we are not going to be tied down or shackled by the duplicity and hypocrisy of Americans. We are going to do what is in our interest. If Americans still think that having kowtowing to illegal immigration in California is fine by them, let them think so. Let the previous panelists think so. Let the previous panelists have 10 illegal immigrants put up a tent inside his house. I don't give a toss. But as far as my country is concerned, I am going to act decisively what is in my country's interest.
Absolutely. Dr. Joseph M. Chalil is there, and I'll come back to Mr. Critchley to give him an opportunity to rebut the comments that have been made. Now, look, it's true that the Trump administration has not exactly been above reproach, Mr. Chalil. Let's be honest about that. It has, after all, been provocatively referring to American immigration problem as a war for the future of civilization, almost suggesting that the people on the streets that they want to evict are somehow not civilized. But that's what it is. Nonetheless, the effect, which is a full-fledged, I don't know what to call it, trying to be polite, leftist intifada against US immigration or ICE officials, isn't doing any favors to the liberal cause either. Let's be honest about that. This is not liberalism in the classical sense.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. What is clearly seen on the streets of California, it's a long time coming. California, again, for a long time have been ruled by Democrats. There was no rule of law. America, a land of immigrants, has always been a land of law and order. Everybody obeyed rules, everybody obeys law, everybody respected police, everybody stopped when the police say stop. And California was an exception because if you, again, even for the past few years, if you go to cities like LA or San Francisco, you could see looting happening in local stores, like in pharmacy stores like CVS or Rite Aid or other stores. And they had to keep everything under lock and key because California was not enforcing loot and theft under a certain amount of dollar amount. So it was about to come, and then there was a homeless problem where people were allowed to settle on the streets of California. Now what's happening is in the immigration, again, law, as you know, anybody, whether they are illegals, they are breaking the laws of the country, they are here illegally, and the ICE was planning to deport them. And if Trump hasn't acted in time, invoking Title 10 of the U.S. Code and to federalize the California National Guard. Again, these are not American military; these are California National Guard soldiers who were activated, taken over by Trump, and sent to them to create peace. And my fellow
but hang on, Dr. Chalil. Look, yes, you sent in the guard, but many people will say that's a violation of the spirit of federalism. That's what Modi is accused of by the Americans constantly. So, I mean, please, let's call it what it is. This is also a form of authoritarianism. Trump is no angel sitting in the White House. He may have an opinion on everything. He might think he's an angel. He might lie to the South African president. He might lie to the world about his prowess at broaching, ceasefires between antagonists.
But no democracy is safe without law and order. No democracy is safe without the borders. So if you let
no democracy exists without dissent either. So
correct.
So that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, Dr. Chalil, look, you might be somebody who agrees with Trump, but I have a real problem.
No, not just me. The entire American.
With the U.S. state under both Trump and Biden, both, even when Trump was in office. The last time around, the American State Department was lecturing India. I'm asking you, has America got to the point where it can no longer point a finger at others without 5 or 6 or 8 pointing back at it? That's the question I'm asking you. Who are you?
I would agree that there was double standard in the past.
In the past?
India,
it exists
America
even now.
was.
Would you admit that America has fallen off, has fallen off the map when it comes to being the torchbearer of democracy and freedom of expression? Admit it. Come on.
But freedom of expression is not burning cars. Freedom of expression is not hurting police officers. Imagine, the protesters. I can see from the images on your screen that they are holding Mexican flags.
No,
they're holding Mexican flags and burning American flag.
So
imagine what happens if somebody
you're allowed to burn the American flag, aren't you? I mean, that's the problem with the law. I mean, so if you are, then what's the problem?
And Trump wants to change that. Trump wants to change it.
Well, he wants to change it. That's a different matter. The law exists. It should be upheld. They should be allowed to burn the American flag. Burn it.
And they are protesting on behalf of Mexico. Looks like they are holding Mexican flags.
So what?
So if people America are doing it in India, if the Pakistani
this is where the problem is. This is where the problem is. Today you have an individual who is backing Trump very selectively. He's saying Trump is upholding the law, but the law says that you can burn the American flag. So what's the problem? I don't understand.
And the governor went to court, and the court declined to intervene. So it's showing that there was no emergency injunction on activating the National Guards. There's a hearing tomorrow. So even the most liberal courts in the country, in California, are siding with President Trump and the national
Dr. Chalil, was it wrong of the Trump and the Biden administration to come in here and try to meddle in our internal affairs? Has India spoken about what is going on?
I would agree with that. I would agree that America should be minding its own business and not interfering in other democracies.
Well, I'll come to.
But that is not the case here.
I'll come to Mr. Critchley, and I hope that he will agree with you. But I want to open this up further. Sanju Verma is raising her hand. Ayer Mitra is there also. Sanju Verma, yes, you're the government you're the BJP spokesperson, national spokesperson of the BJP. There's an insinuation that is being made here that I drew a parallel between Modi and Trump. How do you see that? Do you believe I did?
First and foremost, Rahul, being the national spokesperson of BJP, I will have to choose my words very carefully.
True.
And, as they say, discretion is the better part of valor. And I will choose to be discreet today, though that is not one of my strong suits. Let me just say this. Whether we like Trump or we don't like him, the fact of the matter remains that Trump coming back to power in 2024 is the greatest political comeback since Grover Cleveland. The fact is he won the popular vote He won the electoral vote. He helped the Republicans secure a bigger majority in the House of Representatives. He helped the Republicans secure a brute majority in the Senate. That is all out in the public domain. Now, on the other side, you have California's Gavin Newsom. He actually signed a law in October 2024, and at that time I was in the US. And I remember there was a huge outcry. He actually said that if anybody in California's local government seeks an identity proof from anyone who wishes to cast their vote, then that will be deemed as illegal. So basically, not only did Gavin Newsom advocate open borders, he made asking for voter identity proof as illegal, and rather than an illegal immigrant who should be arrested, he said that the federal or the state or the local government who asks for proof will be put behind bars. He was basically pandering to the baser popular instincts. But I want to just focus on one thing, and this is very important to your debate, because I will not get into this Trump versus Gavin Newsom, Democrats versus Republicans. The fact of the matter is that 20% of Indian Americans live in California at about 9.25 lakh odd. But, only 56,000 people, as in 56,000 Indians live in Los Angeles. They make up for only 1.2% of the population, whereas, Rahul, more than 500,000 are Muslims, and they are Muslim immigrants, and I'm not going to hold back my punches. And that should tell you a story. It is not Indians who are out on the streets. It is not just another random immigrant who's out on the streets, burning cars, looting, vandalizing, attacking policemen. It is radicalized Islamist immigrants who are at more than 500,000 in Los Angeles alone. Just look at this. The white population in Los Angeles is 37.3%, black at 8.5%, American Indian 1.2%, Asians, excluding Indians, 12%, and the rest are Muslim immigrants. So I always say, you look at Birmingham, you look at Leeds, you look at large parts of suburban United Kingdom, you look at Sweden, you look at Denmark. It is radical Islamist immigrants who are wreaking havoc, and that is the nub of the issue.
I don't want to color one particular community by religion and single them out for blame. That's your prerogative. I'm not going there with this. I'm only looking at a very simple and straightforward binary. Can America today lecture the world, Mr. Iyer Mitra, on the basis of what we're seeing?
Look, America's going to lecture the world irrespective. That really doesn't matter, you see. The question, of course, is why when we lecture other people, they don't take umbrage to it. Why do we take umbrage to what every Tom, Dick or Harry anywhere in the world? I don't care if it's America, if it's Liechtenstein, if it's the Vatican says about India, number one. Number two, remember, Los Angeles has a storied history of riots. There were the 1992 riots, when the Rodney King lynching, whatever it was, happened in those days. You've had riots through Donald Trump's first term. Remember the Black Lives Matter riots, essentially to protect criminals. You've also had the left, Democrats specifically, essentially support the lots of riots through negation. They were invited, for example, to condemn the vandalization of Teslas and things like that a few weeks back. I suspect for the last 2 weeks and for the coming few months, Elon Musk is going to be a great Democratic hero ever since he fell out with Trump. But till then, none of the Democrats, Pramila Jayapal was asked very pointedly if she condemns the vandalization of Teslas. She refused to do that. So, this is part and parcel of America. It is part and parcel of left-wing politics throughout the world. The American guest is quite right when he says it's a small fraction. The issue is all riots are carried out by a small fraction. There are no riots that are not carried out by a small fraction. And yet, when it politically suits somebody, the left or the right, the actions of the small fraction are immediately blamed on everybody else. True. Now, you remember what Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi did during the Chauri Chaura riots when the police station was burnt down in some 1932 or
Yes.
1926, I forget when.
Yeah,
He
the
called off
20s.
the entire independence movement at that time because he took moral responsibility for it, right?
Well, so
we've
did Martin
come-
Luther King.
We've come really far now,
Yeah.
where you had people of the moral standing who would take responsibility for the actions of their fringe radicals, to now where the actions of the fringe radical are immediately blamed on the other side. Look, you're responsible for your own actions. Who's rioting today on the streets of LA? I think people have forgotten in 1992, the National Guard again had to be called out with Humvees, machine guns on Humvees and things like that. This is not new. You remember, Rahul, how the Black Lives riots mattered. The people most affected in it were their own people, and the same logic that you heard was the Pakistan logic. Oh, you know, Pakistan's the biggest victim of terrorism, so we couldn't have done it. Right? So this is a standard left-wing textbook. This is how they operate. The right wing operates through coups. That's a different matter. They'll just, the military will just go in and take over control and things like that. But this is how the left wing operates. This is how the left wing operates throughout the world. One template fits all. There's nothing you can do about it. And
So let me ask you then.
realize the most
so the
iconic
state then, so the state then is within its rights to put this down.
Absolutely. I commend Mr. Trump. This is exactly what we should have done during the Shaheen Bagh. Look, people have an absolute right to protest peacefully and not inconvenience other people. Your right ends where my nose begins. The moment you start inconveniencing people, the use of lethal force proportionately is absolutely justified. What Trump has done is very good. I salute him for it.
Yeah, and viewers, remember, for domestic consumption here, those people who were taking certificates from America at that time and saying, see, this is how they would have done it in America, today can look at these. Yes, Dr. Ranganathan, before I bring in Mr. Critchley. Yes.
No, very quickly, a couple of points that I'm sure the panelists following on from me would like to comment on. Number one, you remember those truckers protested in Canada a couple of years ago when Trudeau was the Prime Minister, and what happened? It was quelled with a force that was unheard of even in developing countries. And that was a democratic or so-called leftist or liberal, leftist liberal, if
Their
at all.
bank accounts were seized. They were debanked. Yes.
And the same guys in India who were commending the actions of Trudeau then were the ones who were supporting the illegal farm protesters blocking our highways in India for more than a year. So this hypocrisy is everlasting. It's not going to end. But I just want to talk about those people who are saying, look, a minority of people are fomenting this trouble. So do you mean to say that the millions of people who elected Trump the first time over and the second time over, did they barge into the White House on January 6th, or were they also minority? Because there must have been millions, judging by the way you blamed every right-winger for the insurrection.
That's right. That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly, you see, it's all elastic. But let me ask you, you see, what has ended, Dr. Ranganathan, to be honest, and Mr. Iyer Mitra, is America's moral authority.
Am I actually going to get a chance to respond at some point
I'm
here?
coming to you. I'm asking you the question. What has ended, just a quick one to Dr. Ranganathan, what has ended is America's moral authority. That's what I believe. It's burning there on the streets of LA. So let me ask you, and let me rephrase it, Mr. Critchley. Let me rephrase that. Can the USA credibly project its values on the rest of the world? We don't want this.
Is this a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, look, first of all, I want to express my shock, frankly, at the comments from the BJP spokesperson. And if this is a spokesperson for the BJP,
I don't need your certificates. Please keep your certificates to yourself.
I'm amazed to
Don't
think
get
that the
personal with me.
BJP.
Okay.
Do not get personal with me.
This is
no,
essentially.
I will not allow
This is
anybody to get
essentially.
personal with
I'm
me.
sorry. I'm sorry,
one
ma'am.
second, one
I
second.
think
Do
I've
not
shown.
get
I will
personal with
not.
me.
I will
One
not.
second, one
I will
second, one
not be
second.
spoken
I
over.
will not
I'm
allow
sorry.
you
I
to
can
make
talk all day
personal remarks.
if you need
Sanju
me
Verma,
to.
one second, you can respond to him. Let him finish.
listen to your
You can respond.
So-
Hang on. Now, you said a lot, so let him finish his point.
I'm sitting here to take lessons
No,
from
that's
you.
fine.
So-
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that once. I'll come back to you. We are not running away from this debate. This is going to be.
No, because it usually
No,
happens in
it's
the
it's
So-
already a
so
trenchant
listen.
debate. So let's just give him his time, and please, I'll give you yours to respond. Yes, Mr. Critchley.
So I think there's some wide agreement here that Donald Trump's behavior, in my opinion, is terrible. And I think many of the other panelists would agree that it's at least problematic from time to time. And I think they would agree that if the United States claims to, we all agree that if the United States claims to stand for democracy, we have to take a hard look in the mirror if we'll do things like elect somebody like Donald Trump and countenance this kind of behavior by him. The commonality, I think, here, not just between the United States and India, but across much of the liberal democratic world, is that people are abandoning the principles of liberal democracy. And again, America has to wrestle with its own role in this and turning towards authoritarianism. And authoritarianism, in almost every case, is fueled by the exploitation of ethnic nationalist hatred. So to have a statement from your ruling party's spokesperson that the problem that we're seeing in Los Angeles is somehow caused by Muslims and that it's Muslim extremists doing this just strikes me as rank bigotry and extremely irresponsible. And to follow it up with a series of statistics that highlight the white population in Los Angeles, which is a minority, is also an example of exactly the sort of thing that I would hope India would be ashamed of, the same way I am ashamed of Donald Trump and his exploitation of exactly the same
false equivalence, but nonetheless, yes.
Now,
let her
I
respond.
think that the match, there's also, it lines up very well. There was reference to Russia as well. This lines up with Putin as well. Now, I agree that America has had a history of tending to lecture other nations, and often, it's been too easy to point to our own failings, whether it's in civil rights or elsewhere.
I mean, you're a country preceding Trump that didn't allow black or, African Americans, which was the polite term you invented about 30 years too late, or 40 years too late, or 50 years too late, or 60 years too late. You didn't allow them in the same bus as the whites.
It was 100 years too late after
whatever,
the Civil War.
Whatever. But the point is,
so one of the strengths of the United States is that we can still be self-critical.
The point is, viewers, I'm sorry, sir. I'm really sorry. There are no strengths. You go and ask the African Americans even today, and you will see how the Constitution, the laws of America, are actually weighted against them. You know this, Mr. Critchley.
This is why
that
the
hasn't changed.
was
That
amended.
hasn't changed, despite America being this
Constitution-
so-called liberal bastion of democracy for at least in the modern era, 100 years. Viewers.
May I please come in?
Anyhow.
This is unfair.
Now,
Yes.
I have been waiting for
Yes, yes.
I do want to make a second point here.
Yeah, okay.
No, you cannot have a free
That's
round.
Okay,
Second
let
point is that it's
her
very
come in.
easy.
Let her come in before you
That
go to
second
the
point-
second point. Let her
This is
come in.
unfair.
Let
I
her come
refuse
in.
to be a part of this
Okay,
debate.
Sanju Verma, make your point, and
Thank you.
I'll bring him back in. Yes.
Let me make one thing very clear.
Yeah.
Spencer Critchley is the man who was saying Kamala Harris is the next thing after brown bread and Americans should vote for her. Today, Mr. Critchley has a nice big fat omelette on his face. And let me tell you, you keep talking about your chemistry professor, Kenneth Clegg, who passed away last year. He was from Brown University. And you say that, I hold Kenneth Clegg very dear. So let me tell you that Kenneth Clegg is on record saying that radical Islam is one of the biggest problems in modern world. And let me tell you one more thing. You might disagree with Sanju Verma, the BJP's national spokesperson, but let me tell you what the United Nations said. The United Nations is on record saying that 9 out of the top terror organizations in the world have a radical Islamist DNA, from Al-Qaeda to ISIS to Boko Haram to Hizbul Mujahideen to Hezbollah to Jamaat Dawa to Jaish-e-Mohammed. So, Mr. Critchley, you are putting to shame your idol, Mr. Kenneth Clegg. Now, are you going to say that Mr. Kenneth Clegg was wrong? Your chemistry professor, who you idolize, who said that radicalization and radical Islam and immigrants pose a threat to modern America? That is what Kenneth Clegg said. Now you tell me,
I'm afraid,
do you disagree with him?
I'd like to respond, but I'm afraid I actually could not understand anything you just said. You were yelling so loud.
Oh, really?
Oh, come on.
Really?
That's a low blow.
Really?
Mr.
No, it's
Critchley.
true.
She
I'm
may not
sorry,
speak the Oxford
it was-
accent.
I'm sorry,
Excuse
it was
me.
destroying
She may not
in my
speak
earpiece.
she may not speak in a southern drawl or may not speak with a New York accent or what have you, but that's immaterial. That's racist,
she was
actually.
just speaking.
That is
No,
racist.
she was speaking.
That is
No, it
racist.
is
You
not.
can't understand
She
someone
was
who's speaking
speaking so
English.
loud.
Hang
she
on.
was speaking
Go
so
to
loudly.
Scotland,
She was
and you
speaking
tell
so
me
loudly.
when people
She
speak in
speaking so
Scotland.
loudly.
No, that's
Excuse
very
me,
wrong.
sir. She
I'm
was
sorry.
speaking so
Now that is,
loudly.
if you
I
please
said nothing
answer the
about her.
question.
I
Rahul
said
and I
nothing
started
about her
comment.
accent. I said
Since
she
you
was
spoke about
yelling.
Oxford,
People can yell
Rahul, since
in
you
any
spoke
country in
about
the
Okay.
world.
Oxford,
And it
Okay.
is hard to
Let
understand
him
them when
respond.
they overwhelm.
Let him
If
respond
you
on the
yell so
on the
loudly,
click point.
if you yell so loudly, you
Okay.
overwhelm the audio
Right,
system. You
right.
cannot be understood.
Right.
It has nothing to do with an accent.
Well-
The other point I want to make is straw
You're
man
a senile
arguments.
old man.
If you
You're a
depict,
senile old man.
your opponent,
Okay,
if you depict your
let's-
opponent,
You're a senile
Okay,
old
please,
your
man.
please,
opponent.
please. Let's not descend
you
into this
blame your
personal.
opponent-
No, hang on. I'm going to call
man.
this off. This is not going anywhere. Please.
You're a senile
look,
old man.
okay, Okay, please. Sanju Verma and
Senile old
Mr.
man.
No, hang on. One second. Let's not. No, come on. Let's not personalize this to the point where we're talking about the tonality of a person and the other side is talking about someone's acumen, etc., etc. I'm not going there. This is not the style of this debate show. We can have strong disagreements. We can use adjectives to undercut the argument, but not the person. That's not allowed. And I'm not going to take that.